In this video, we're going to sort of lay out the framework for how we're thinking about disorders from a trauma perspective. And we'll start with separation anxiety. So as we're thinking about diagnoses, the DSM usually describes them in terms of duration of symptoms, number of symptoms. It asks whether there is significant distress or impairment in functioning. It says shouldn't be due to a substance or medical illness, and that it shouldn't be better explained by another psychiatric disorder. So if we're looking at separation anxiety, it starts with a general idea. So it says that the syndrome is developmentally inappropriate and excessive fear or anxiety concerning separation from those to whom the individual is attached, as evidenced by at least 3 of the following. Now, when there is a letter, that means it must be there. When there are numbers, it means that a certain number of them must be there. So in this case, at least 3. Now, as we're thinking about disorders, we're going to be thinking, does it solve the problem in the short run, in the long run? Does it create other problems? Does it leave you feeling better about yourself? So often disorders feel good in the short run and cause more problems in the long run. They often create other kinds of problems and leave people not feeling good about themselves, as someone who uses and relies on this disorder. In general, what we want to be doing is using relational approaches to solving the problem rather than alcohol or food or sex. Not that there's a problem with alcohol, food, or sex, but we want it proportional and appropriate for the situation. So back to separation anxiety. We said developmentally inappropriate, that there needs to be at least 3 of the following. We need to have recurrent excessive distress. So we're thinking about what is typical in that situation, when anticipating or experiencing separation, that it be persistent and excessive worry about losing major attachment figures or about possible harm to them, persistent and excessive worry about experiencing some untoward event like getting lost or kidnapped. Persistent, notice that word, we're not just saying one time, but across time. Persistent reluctance or refusal to go out away from home to school, etc., because of fear of separation. Persistent and excessive fear of our reluctance about being alone or without major attachment figures, and persistent reluctance of or refusal to sleep away from home. Now, it has to be developmentally inappropriate. So what's appropriate for a 2-year-old is different than what's appropriate for a 10-year-old. And so we want to be paying attention to that. Now, the numbers, we need 3 of them. The letters must be there. So we also need, it has to be at least 4 weeks in children and adolescents, causing clinically significant distress or impairment and not better explained by something else. When we're thinking about trauma, often we're seeing one of the following kinds of problems. So we may see loss of safety, loss of danger cues, loss of trust. We may also see some problems with self-worth, loss of sense of self, or loss of physical connection to the body. And these are really associated with anxiety and anxiety disorders. So you can see an example of this in Grace that I have posted on D2L. And as you're watching Grace, and as you're thinking about separation anxiety disorder, think about how this might be seen from a trauma lens. That doesn't mean that trauma is the only cause of separation anxiety. So we're often thinking about this biopsychosocial model. What is happening in terms of, this biological piece? What's happening in terms of your support system or how you're seeing yourself in relationship to others? And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.